Exclamation, everybody, and welcome back to Cube Ramblings, episode 74 of Cube Ramblings, and episode 105 of altogether of just Cube World. It is for me a Saturday night, August the 15th, 2015. Recording this one a little bit earlier than usual, which is very good. So maybe I won't be quite so tired sounding. That'll be nice. Lots of stuff going on. Before we begin, this is going to be a little bit of a special video thingy majigger here. I've decided to, in addition to releasing this on its normal time, the video on its normal time, Sunday mornings, I'm also going to release just the audio, just my audio, I should say, of this as sort of as a podcasty type of thing. So if you I know that most of the time, most people probably, when they watch this video, they'll just, listen to it in a background tab. Well, now I'm providing a means to just listen to the audio if you prefer, rather than listening to also the game audio and all that stuff. So it'll just be my commentary track and not any of the game audio or anything like that. I'll be uploading that to SoundCloud. I just created a account for myself over there. So it's soundcloud.com/memoryleakdeath. And those of you listening to this on there, welcome. I also have a YouTube channel. This normally would be on my YouTube channel, and it is. But I've decided, since I've decided to make a few little minor changes here and there. Mostly since this is really more of a podcast than a Let's Play, I thought it would be kind of nice to just have the audio only if you want that, instead of having to load up YouTube for it if you wish. Plus, SoundCloud has a mobile app as well for both iOS and Android. So if you want to listen on a mobile device, you can go over and do that. There are plenty of other YouTubers who use SoundCloud for various things, so I figured I would use that. Also, I see a lot of indie devs that use it for their music and whatnot. So I thought, why not? Why not do it? I mean, it's still free regardless of which way you do it, whether it's on YouTube or there. So it's just another option for everybody, and it doesn't take me any extra time because I already record my audio separately from the video anyway. So it's just one extra step. Nothing big, nothing crazy, nothing outrageous. So that's another place you can go and listen to this if you wish to listen to it there. That is totally fine. I've been busy this week with things. I've been playing a bunch of games. Excuse me. I've had some beer before starting the recording, so I might be a little bit a little bit more mellow than usual. If that's even possible. Who knows? I this week been playing some more of Dex, the RPG game, cyberpunk 2D platforming RPG game that I've been playing for a while, and I decided to play with the mouse and keyboard rather than the controller. I've been trying for many episodes, many hours on the controller, because it is an action RPG. So I figure, action RPGs usually work better on the controller because there's action and stuff. But this is the opposite case. It turns out that I'm enjoying the game so much more now that it's on mouse and keyboard, because everything is far more responsive and all the menus are easier to click through. And there's apparently I didn't know this, but apparently there's a fast travel mechanic in the game. So I can, rather than run through screens, I can just fast travel to places, which I didn't even know existed. So I'm actually, because just that one change, it's very strange. Just that one change, going to mouse and keyboard from a controller, has made me just enjoy that game so much more than what I was previously. It's just so much more enjoyable now. I'm actually looking forward to it. I was kind of dreading it a little bit, recording it, but now I'm looking forward to recording more of it. Plus, I've gotten I've gotten significantly far in it to where it's I'm at the point where I've pretty much done every side quest that I can do, and now it's time to go to the main quests, which is hilarious because I have no idea. Like, I did the first main quest and then went off and just did all the side quests, and I have no idea what's in store for me as far as the main quests go. So this is going to be an interesting run, to say the least. So I've been having lots of fun with that. I got a lot of good footage recorded for that, so that's good. I've also been recording today. I recorded for about 3 hours of The Witcher 3, and making progress in there now. I still doing a lot of the side quests and stuff because I just love doing everything in just some weird order. I just, I don't necessarily do things in the order that I'm supposed to do them in. I just love having the freedom to just go do whatever the hell I want. And every side quest in there so far has been really interesting to play. Although I have been able to predict some of them. Most of them have been just, really have all these like little, flourishes to them that you don't see in too many games. For instance, and this will be a little bit of a spoiler, but not much. There is a side quest that I do that I've recorded today that will get going up sometime this week, where I climb into a castle that has been burned down at some point. You can see there's all kinds of scorch marks, and there's a lot of wood materials, building materials that have fallen to pieces. And there's a little scaffolding that you can climb up on. And when you go up onto this like sub roof that they have, that the castle had, you see a whole bunch of, a lot of charred wood and stuff, and then you see a whole bunch of skeletal remains. So if you start to look and read between the lines there, it's like, oh, this not only did this castle burn down, but there were people still inside that couldn't get out, and so they climbed up onto the roof, presumably to just get away from the fire, and that's where they died. and you can see their bones there, and it's like, wow, there's these extra little touches that they throw in there, and they don't make any mention of it or anything like that. It's just there. If you either see it or you don't. It's one of those things where there's nothing there there was actually no loot there to grab. It was just there. That little subroof, that is. There's other loot elsewhere in that tower, but it's just the little flourishes like that just make it so worth just sitting there and just taking your time and just going through very methodically and just finding all the things to find. It's very, very rewarding game. It's the most rewarding RPG I think I've played in a while. That said, it does have its frustrating parts to it. Mostly it's just my controllers have been frustrating me lately. I don't know what it is, but the D-pad on my 360 controller, and this is actually my backup controller. I swapped this out because I was having problems with the other one. The same thing with the D-pad on the 360 controller. It doesn't register the correct button presses, or it doesn't register at all sometimes, and it just drives me nuts. It's like I push up on it, but for some reason it registers it as a right or a left, and then he switches out his swords instead of actually eating something, and it's just little things like that have just been annoying me, and I think that's just due to my controller. I see that there are people who've been playing it with the mouse and keyboard, and I'm wondering how that works out for them, because it looks like if I play with the mouse and keyboard, I actually get access to like a lot of quick maneuvers and like a quick bar type of thing, which would help me out a lot to be able to swap between the various spells that you get, or signs I should say, much easier than using the wheel. But it's, I don't know, I just have this weird thing about action RPGs and not using the controller. It just feels like they should all have the controller, but then of course you hold up Dex there, and Dex works a lot better with the mouse and keyboard. So I don't know. Maybe I'll do one session where I play with just the mouse and keyboard. I'm not not entirely sure. I have a feeling that there's probably some things mapped to the middle mouse button, which never works for me. So maybe that won't be so great. And I actually have, I have my mouse here actually has some buttons on the side too that I've never mapped to anything and never had the option to map to anything. So I've been looking around and trying to dig up my mouse drivers, because I never actually installed them. I just used the Windows drivers, because usually those other, like the Logitech drivers, usually you end up shutting them down because they don't work quite right, or they do weird funky things. And so I just got to a point where I never installed them. And now I'm thinking maybe that's why I'm having problems with like not being able to have a middle mouse click and stuff like that in games. So I've been trying to search around to see if I can find my actual disc for that, because I looked online and it's just I downloaded something and it's like, yeah, I don't know what the hell your mouse is. I'm like, oh, okay, well this is that's not helping me. So I'm looking into that as well. Another thing that so as far as the side quest videos go this week, I played Cosmonautica, which is it's surprisingly a good amount of fun. It's very, very casual, but I've been thinking in the back of my head, like, man, it might be kind of nice to go back and play some more of that, maybe in a live stream or something, because it's not very deep. It's not a very deep game, but it just, sometimes you just want to play something that just to pass the time, I'm saying that because I was just playing, what the hell was I playing? Like Super Awesome Quest or something like that on my mobile device for about 2 hours today, because I was waiting for my truck to get its scheduled maintenance done. And while I'm sitting there, I'm just playing this game. And it's a mobile game. It's one of those games where it's like, I can't believe I sat here and played this for 2 hours, but when you have nothing else to do and you're sitting in a waiting room and you just have time to kill, it works, It's just one of those things where it's like, I wouldn't go out of my way to play it, but when I've got time to kill and I'm stuck and I have nothing else on me, this is what's going to be played. So that's the way that most of the mobile games, I think, tend to go. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just it's hard to play those things out of context, right? There's certain contexts that I would play those things in, and that's, I'm waiting for something, or I have time to kill, and I never feel like I have actual time to kill. I feel like I feel like every hour that I spend playing is a precious hour, and I need progress and fulfillment and all kinds of other things, which is why I tend to play a lot of RPGs. Although I'll be honest, with the amount of RPGs out there, as much as I love RPGs, I wish there were more RPGs that were only 6 to 10 hours and not 600 hours, because it gets to a point where there's so many RPGs out there that I want to play, but you can only really play one at a time. If it takes 100 hours, you just can't play more than one at a time, because you're never going to remember all the different plot points, and even then you're probably not going to remember them, and it's just there's too much. And I feel like it would be great, I would play more RPGs if there were more out there that were just like very short ones, 6 to 10 hours or something like that. Like, I feel like Dex is not a long RPG. It feels like it would be more of a 10 to 15 hour RPG based on what I've been playing so far. Although I don't know exactly how long the game is, but I would like more of those. Like, just give me a nice, 10-hour experience in RPG, and then shove off, right? It's okay to have 100-hour RPGs, but let's go easy on them for a little bit. Because I've got The Witcher 3. I've got, I've been looking at Satellite Rain is another one that I'd like to play, but it's just so much time investment in it. Shadowrun Returns. I have Shadowrun Returns plus one of its expansions, and I was looking to get the Hong Kong expansion too. And I've played like an hour of it off camera, and that's it. And I want to sit down at some point and actually play it. I don't know the whole lore and story around it. I don't know any of that stuff, but I would like to still play it because it's the type of thing that I would enjoy. But it's another one that's like 100 hours. And then there's Pillars of Eternity. I have that. I've only played about 20 minutes of, and I'd like to sit down and play that. And I know that one's going to be like 80 to 100 hours. It's just like, holy crap, there's so many of these RPGs. I love RPGs, but good Lord, can I get a few that are like 10 hours long instead of 100 hours? Can we divide these in 10 pieces for a change here? But you know, it's a good time to be an RPG fan, I guess, is what we're getting at there. Not so much as far as the sandbox survival stuff goes. There's a lot of sandbox survival games out there right now, and I don't see any of them that I actually really enjoy. Technically, I guess Empyrion is a survival sandbox, and I guess Minecraft is too, to a certain extent, but I guess Empyrion is more of one because it's got the whole, you need, Minecraft has hunger too, so I guess they're about the same in terms of their survival mechanics. Those I don't mind quite as much because even though there is a survival aspect there, it's ridiculously easy to get to a point where you don't have to worry so much. Other games like DayZ and all those zombie apocalypse games, like those annoy the crap out of me for some reason. It's just, I just feel like first of all, the multiplayer ones are just, a-hole simulators, basically, because it's just everybody just acting like jerks to one another, like Rust and all that stuff. Rust and although I've heard that Ark is pretty good with that. The community apparently is okay with Ark, but I've seen a few posts where it's like, okay, this is getting a little bit too role play for me. But it's some of those, I don't know. I don't really like those as much as I like the sort of sandbox building things. And then even the sandbox building things I tend to get tired of after a while. There's a lot of 2D ones. There's a Signs of Life, which I'd like to get back to at some point after it's been updated a bit more. It's gotten quite a few updates lately, but I want to wait a little while longer on that. I just picked up Edge of Space, which is another Terraria alike, and very similar to Terraria and Signs of Life and Starbound. Very similar to those. Probably more similar to Starbound and Signs of Life than Terraria is. But I picked that up because it was on sale and it was on my wish list, and I was like, let me just do it. It didn't cost that much. I think it was like 20% off or something like that. I was like, I'll just pull the trigger on that, because I was also in the process of buying Mad Max, which I didn't even know was a video game that was going to exist, and it is a video game that's going to exist, and I will leave you a link to a Eurogamer article that will talk about it. There's not much I can say about the game, because I've seen like one video of it, and I was like, well, this looks like something. This certainly looks like a thing that I would probably like at some point, although it does have that full, hey, this is going to take you 100 hours to complete. I'm like, oh god, another 100-hour game. But it's the Eurogamer article actually has a video in it from the Gamescom gameplay demo that they showed off, and it's got driving mechanics. You can pimp out your ride with all kinds of stuff, and it does have like mild survival things, like food and water and stuff like that. I believe it does have that in there, and it does takes the same path as the latest Mad Max movie. What was it? Fury Road, I believe was the name of it. So it's got that twist on it. It's not like the old Mad Max movies. It's more like the reboot Mad Max movies. So it's got all the it uses all the sort of aspects from that and all the models and stuff, you know, that are based off of that. And so I thought, well, this looks like something I might like, so I might as well pony up for it. It's not out yet. It's a pre-order. I did a pre-order on it, and I was like, well, while I'm on here, and I'm going to pay $60 for a pre-order, I might as well pick up a few things on sale. This is how it works in my brain. I'm like, well, I'm on here now, and I got my credit card out. I might as well pick up a few other things while I'm here. So yeah, Mad Max. There's not much I can say about it other than go look at the video and look at some other articles on it. It reminds me a little bit of, you know, Shadows of Mordor, which is another game I need to sit down and play, but that's going to take many, many hours to do. As far as like the open world stuff there, but I don't know. It sounds like they have some tower like mechanics, sort of like an Ubisoft game where it's like, oh, go find this tower and that does this thing for you and unlocks this area. It sounds like it might have some of that. Not entirely sure. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that it's a well-worn carpet, as the case may be. And then so I've been also, since I'm talking about Empyrion Galactic Survival, I've been playing some of that. I put out the first video of my series on that on the Memory League Death channel. I've also got a bunch, 2 live streams over on the Memory League Doom channel. So that's I don't know if I'll do any more live streams of it. I might not. It really depends. Because there's other things I wish to live stream that I've started already. But this series is going to be an occasional one. I'm going to just do, I think, just one episode a week for now. Because there's not, I feel like there might not be a whole lot of content yet in the game. And I'm kind of, I've got 2 episodes recorded, and I'm at a point where I'm running low on the supplies. And I'm not sure I can make it out to space to get the other supplies that I need yet. So I want to make sure that I take my time and make sure that I'm making some sort of progress, but also that I don't get stuck and have to restart the whole world again. That's really my main concern. That's also why I live streamed it a couple times before actually doing any kind of series on it, because I wanted to make sure I didn't screw up too much, at least in the beginning there, and then not have any resources and then be completely SOL at that point. So that will continue. Right now, tentatively, just going to be Fridays. Friday is at 2:30 in the 2:30 slot, 2:30 Eastern time, just to so I don't get burned out by it, and also so that I don't put too much on my schedule, because there's things that I want to do. I've been trying to finish up some games so that I can concentrate on a few other things that I have going on the side. I want to, and I talked about this a little bit in my last channel update. I do want to create a website at some point. I've been doing some research into hosting providers and stuff that are relatively cheap, and of course I make websites for a living, although I'm not a UI designer at all, so UI is going to be really basic and terrible probably, but I do the back-end plumbing for sites, so at this point it's almost second nature to just fire up Java and get Spring in there and do some Spring Boot, and then bam, you're done. You got yourself a website ready to go that's got fully featured stuff. But my goal for that is to not. My goal is to make sure that the site updates itself and stays relevant on its own. So that means I gotta parse out the various APIs for things like YouTube's API and Steam's API and a few other things that I have listed, like Twitter and all that stuff. So I want to get a whole bunch of API integration, and then also use it as a sort of command center for myself, so that if I want to do like updates on Twitter or something like that, I have one means that I can go and do all the things. Like, hey, I'm going to update, player me, and I'm going to update this and update that, and so on and so forth, all in one shot. Or if I need to change the titles of some games, like I had to at one point in time for the Forza Horizon series I did, I can do those in bulk, because bulk operations on YouTube don't really work so well from the YouTube UI, but you can do them from the API. So things like that, if I ever need to do bulk operations and bulk updates and all that stuff. Anywho, that's getting off the course of games, kind of. But bringing it back to the games, still playing Cities Skylines. I have a feeling I've hit a wall as far as Cities Skylines is concerned, because I'm not really I got to 100,000 citizens and then it kind of just stopped. It's like it's not going any higher than that, really. And I'm not sure, I'm not getting, the demand has dropped off to the point where I'm not getting any new demand coming in for things, so I'm kind of worried about it. I've been looking around. There is a mod apparently that fixes the demand, so that when you have a large city, there's still demand for more residentials and stuff, because apparently you get to a certain saturation point where the game just stops, people just stop asking for things, and then your population just kind of tops off. So I might look into that and see if that is something that I need or not. I'm not entirely sure, but that will continue for a little while. I've been thinking about doing a new city with another map, and then just go through, find another map, make another city, and then try to integrate some of the experience that I had with this first map and try to do that. But on the other hand, I also feel like I could maybe just end the series at some point and say, all right, well, if I ever decide to come back to this, I'll come back to it. Because I know that there's another expansion coming out for that. And actually I have some details of that here. I'll link it to, I think I have it in my list. But it's, maybe I don't have it in my, oh yeah, here it is. Cities Skylines After Dark expansion, which is, it's hilarious. I was reading the comments on one article that was talking about the After Dark expansion, and someone put the flying toaster screensaver as an image down in the comments. And I'm like, there's somebody who gets it. After Dark the After Dark collection was a collection of screensavers back in the day that I actually have. I have CDs of it around here. I wish they'll never work anymore. But I actually did have that, and it had a whole bunch of screensavers. And then I also had, the thing that I liked about it the most is that it also had some of the screensavers were games, so they would act like screensavers, but then you could also play them. And there was one that I loved. There were actually two of them that I loved. First of all, Flying Toasters was one of the screensavers, and that was the sort of iconic After Dark screensaver, where you just had toasters flying and bread behind them, and bread landing and toasting and then popping out and flying off and all that stuff. Because the whole point of a screensaver is that it has moving images constantly on the screen, so that you don't get any burn into your old CRT monitors, which is why screensavers aren't really that useful anymore, because with LCDs and whatnot, you don't get that kind of burn in like you used to get, or LEDs, I don't think you get any burn in at all if you have that. So it's just, you don't see that stuff too much anymore, because the screensavers are just there more for legacy than anything else. But it had that, and then some of the games it had like a little game show thing that was kind of like You Don't Know Jack, but it was more towards kids, and it had like, you know, cutesy graphics and stuff, and it was an interesting little game. I remember playing that quite a bit, and to the point where I could remember some of the answers and was able to answer them pretty accurately. And then it had one game that I absolutely loved. One game screensaver that I absolutely loved. I don't remember. It was a space game. It was a 2D, like top down. It was almost like Asteroids. In very many ways, it was like Asteroids, but it had, you know, fully text. It was 2D sprites, and you had asteroids, and it was, what was it? Oh, Lunatic Fringe. That's what it was called. Lunatic Fringe. Man, that just came back to my head. Holy crap. All kinds of stuff coming back into my brain right now. Lunatic Fringe was the name of that screensaver. If you, you know what? If I remember, I will try to find a link to it and put it in the description, if there's a video of it out there, or even just a Wikipedia page or something. Because I used to sit here, I'm not joking with you, I used to sit here and play a screensaver game for hours, and that game, I just loved that game. It was very simple, very basic game, but I just loved the hell out of it. It was called Lunatic Fringe. I remember when your spaceship would be destroyed, it used to give out that, like, it would sound like a guy screaming in space, like, ah, you know. I love that game. It was a screensaver that I used to always have on my computer because I just loved it. So I would just stare and play that. That's how pathetic I was. I used to play screensavers. Getting back to the Cities Skylines After Dark expansion. This is when I first heard this at the Gamescom thing, I was like, did they just name their expansion after a porno? I mean, it's like Cities Skylines After Dark. when we stop being friendly and start getting real. I'm like, because the first thing going through my head is like, okay, there's going to be a whole bunch of red light district stuff and drinking and all kinds of, and it kind of sounds like that, but it's what it's also doing is they're going to release a free DLC or a patch, whatever they're going to call it. I think that's just going to be a patch they're going to release that will add the day-night cycle, which we don't have in the game right now, and then that would also be part of the After Dark expansion, which you do have to pay for. I think it's a DLC expansion. That one will have the day-night cycle, plus it'll give you all kinds of different like stores, and your citizens will do things differently at nighttime as opposed to that, and you need to make room for them. I think does this give a good overview of it? A leisure specialization for commercial areas, which will be busier at night but work normally during daytime hours. Alongside this, there's a new beach specialization, which wasn't specifically said to operate differently throughout the day, but presumably will. City services are being expanded with taxi service for citizens and tourists, prisons for criminals to be taken to from police stations, international airports, because right now you just have sort of a local airport, little rinky-dink thing. There's going to be bikes now for transportation operations, like bike lanes and paths, and dedicated bus paths, so like bus lanes. So your public transportation operates a little bit more efficiently, which is good, because that's the one thing I've noticed a lot is like my buses take up so much room on the roads. I have so many bus routes, and yet they're, causing all kinds of traffic delays. But we don't know anything else about it yet, as far as what its price will be or anything like that. So that is that for the After Dark expansion for Cities Skylines. So looking forward to that. So when it comes to Cities Skylines, I'll try to keep playing until the After Dark expansion comes out and then play that. But I don't know. I might end up like taking a break from it for a little while and then waiting for the After Dark expansion to come out and then playing that. or maybe I'll just take a break from it and start up season 2, where I'll then maybe start a new city altogether. Maybe, because I've never done like a season 2 of anything that I can think of really, other than this, which is not really a season 2, but I just called it season 2, just so that I wouldn't have, so I wouldn't hit the limit of playlists on YouTube and all that stuff. But I might do that. I might do that as well. The reason I'm saying that is because there's a couple other real-time strategy games that I'd like to... There's one I'd like to get back to, which is Soul Zero, which just had a new update to 0.8. And I downloaded that, and I was just playing it for just a couple minutes. And I gotta tell you something. I'll mention this again once because I am going to record another video of it. I just don't know when. I don't know when it's going to go up, but I do want to record another video of it. I'll just tell you this: the UI is worlds different. It's so much more polished, especially since I can remember the old UI, and in fact, I have every version of the game still. I never deleted anything. I still have every version of the game. I could go fire up like version 0.2. I think was the first one that I played in, first one I recorded in, and you look at the UI from that and how basic it was, and you compare it to the UI now, and the UI just looks. I mean, all the buttons are still there, but it's everything's got just that much more polish on it, and it just looks fantastic. And I'm very excited to get back into that again. There's also they've put a couple custom maps in there. There's one for the moon, and there's one for one of the moons of Jupiter, and there's another moon of Mars in there. I think there's Ceres and the moon, Luna, and another one. I think that's a moon of Mars. I don't remember the name of it, but I'd like to play those because I've never played those maps yet, and they're there as custom maps that were there sort of to teach you how to use the map editor and stuff. So I kind of want to play them and see what it's like, because there's also a new mechanic where you can randomize the amount of resources and stuff, so you don't have to worry about there not being any resources on the map or stuff like that. So that's kind of cool. So I do want to get back into that, and I also have been trying to get back into. I've played this off camera. I have not played it on camera. Off-World Trading Company, because that also looked like a really neat one to play with. But I might want to do that as a live stream first, just to learn it, and then maybe do a little series on that, or like a mini series on it. I don't know if I'll do a full blown series on it, but maybe a mini series on it. There's a couple of things I like to do sort of mini series on, like a couple card games that I've been looking at and other things. So there's a lot of like these little things that I would like to do, but I don't want to commit to anything, because obviously I'm trying to free up my time a little bit to do other housekeeping things as well. So it's just that I'm not trying not to allude too much to, but it's neither here nor there. I just wanted to kind of mention that since I'm talking about the city skyline stuff. What else we got on here? So, I talked about Empyrion, Galactic Survival. Rocket League is another one. That's another one that I'd like to do a little series on, but I see that it's not. It's funny. My live streams of Rocket League, the one live stream I did has like 44 views on it or something like that. But I've noticed that other YouTubers who have been doing Rocket League stuff like as a series have not been really getting any views on it. I think it's because people would rather see it either live or would want to see you playing with other people, and that's kind of the rub, right? It's like, it's a really fun game to play. It's not a really fun game to watch. And I think that's the hard part of it. So I've been hesitant to do anything with that. I was getting pretty good at it, but maybe I'll do like a highlight reel somewhere along the way. Who knows? Who knows? But I wanted to point that out because I'll link you to a Destructoid article that talks about the Supersonic Fury DLC that just got released. just got released. It has in it. I haven't bought it yet. It is paid DLC. I don't think it costs that much, but I don't also know what's in it. I think it's okay. There's 2 DLC packs. There's Utopia Coliseum, which is a new arena to play in and is available for free. Okay, and then Supersonic Fury, which is the one you got to pay for. That has 2 new cars in it: American Muscle Car Dominus and the Japanese street car Takumi. And it's got what else? Everything in the DLC is cosmetic, basically. So other than those 2 cars, it's just cosmetic stuff. There's nothing else along with it. Just new boost visuals and I guess hood toppers and stuff like that. So it's not, you can do without it if you want, but I know that a lot of people have picked this up on PS4 because it was free if you had PS Plus. And if you picked it up for free and you enjoy it a lot, maybe you'd want to buy the DLC just to give them a little bit of love, just a little tenderness, little love and tenderness, maybe just a bit, just a tiny bit, a little bit. So I like I said, it's a very fun game to play. Not so much to watch, but very fun to play. Also, I believe one of these things has a spectator mode in it. Now that I've said it's not a whole lot of fun to watch, there's now a spectator mode. So, I guess if you like watching that, then there you go. You got a spectator mode in game now to go watch some things happening. I have on here also. Okay, so some sadder news. I played a game many moons ago. I played it all the way through. There's a playlist out there called Woolfe, Woolfe, the Red Hood Diaries. I was going to say The Wolf Among Us. That's not the right one. Woolfe, the Red Hood Diaries. It was a 2D platforming, side-scrolling platforming game. Well, 2.5D really. Side-scrolling platforming game. Action game. No RPG mechanics or anything like that. It was just an action game, pure action. It was a lot of fun to play. It had a lot of rough edges. The company that made it was called GRIN, and they were it was the first game that they had, the first 3D-ish game. I mean, it was 3D. I mean, I called it 2.5D, but it was 3D. It's just your camera was locked to one plane. It was their first 3D game that they made, so it had some rough edges around it. The mechanics were good, but the story was meh, and some of the platforming was a little bit hokey. It just like you would get hung up on some things, and I know the final bosses were just a pain in the neck, all kinds of pain. But it was a good, for someone for a company that hadn't done that before, it was a good start. Unfortunately, and it was meant to be a start. That was meant to be episode 1, and they would have multiple episodes. Unfortunately, nobody bought episode 1, and episode 1 was kickstarted. And as with most Kickstarters, they didn't raise nearly enough money to deal with it, to be able to stay afloat after the game was released. They really needed people to buy the game. And because that didn't happen, the dev GRIN, which is the name of the development company, has filed for bankruptcy and is shut down. And it's really sad to see that, because that's they were on the right track. They just needed a break, and they didn't get it, unfortunately. And they've been around for a while. They've just been doing a lot of mobile things, and this was their first, non-publisher backed game that they made that they just did on Kickstarter. It's something that they all wanted to do. They had a lot of passion for it. And it just, as with most things, as with most content creation and art creation and whatever you like to call it, it you either sink or you swim. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. Unfortunately for them, they ended up on the sink side of that, and now they're out of business, and that really sucks. And they had a bunch of Kickstarter backer rewards that they can't fulfill now. A lot of physical rewards. They said literally they have a bunch of physical rewards just sitting in storage that they just don't have the money to pay for postage for. I mean, that's how broke they are. So it's sad to see that happen. I as much as that game could have used a few more months cooking, it was still a very good game. It was still competent, and I still enjoyed it. I just unfortunately I was in the minority with that. So them's the breaks, and unfortunately, I hope all the people that were involved with that hit the ground running, and are able to get some jobs, and maybe someday they'll be able to come back and try again, and they'll have the experience of failure, and that will help them to be successful later on, hopefully. So yeah, sad thing. I'll link you to the Destructoid article that talks about it. But I saw that come down this week, and it was earlier in the week, and I was like, wow, that sucks. Because I saw like the image of Red Riding Hood from the game pop up in my RSS feed, and I'm like, oh, someone has found the game, and they're talking about it, and there's going to be good stuff, and maybe episode 2's coming out, and then. No, no, it was none of that, unfortunately, which really sucks. So that's, hopefully good things will come out of that at some point. Speaking of some Kickstarters, I got a bunch of Kickstarter things here that I've been looking at. First of all, the makers of Divinity Original Sin, Larian, they have just taken to Kickstarter to kickstart Divinity Original Sin 2. I enjoyed Divinity Original Sin. I never finished it, and I'm kind of happy to see that. I was looking at some of the comments, and I'll be honest, I was kind of happy to see that other people also got about halfway through and kind of gave up on it. I don't think I got halfway through. I did a whole bunch of live streams on it early on Twitch, which I never saved the VODs for, so you're never going to see them. But then I started uploading videos of those live streams as episodic series, and I had quite a few episodes in, I think, if I remember correctly, of Divinity Original Sin. So you can see some of the game that I played, but I ended up just kind of shelving it after a while because I got very frustrated with the questing system. Like, there was a lot of quests to do, but a lot of times I was just kind of stumped as to what to do next. Like, I just couldn't, it was just boggling my mind. Like, well, what am I supposed to do? What trigger am I supposed to go over? Who am I supposed to talk to? And I think a lot of those quests were meant to be long running quests, that I just, I needed to unlock the other areas to get to. But I just didn't. It was just fine. I was just finding it frustrating, very, very frustrating. And so I kind of shelved it. I was like, okay, I'm getting kind of frustrated by this. Let me come back to this later. Plus, it was pretty difficult. It's got the tactical combat to it, so turn-based tactical combat. So it was fairly difficult at points. I had a couple battles that I had to fight multiple times to get through. And I always intended to come back to it, but again, it's one of those, it's got that curse of the RPGs, right? Where it's like 100 hours you got to put into this. And I was like, well, I got other 100-hour games I'm playing right now. I'll have to come back to you in 5 years or so when everybody's forgotten about you. So I just, Yeah, tis the curse. Tis the curse of loving RPGs, is that you can only play one at a time and still have some sort of consistency going. Unless you're... I used to work with a guy who... he was as into RPGs as I was into. And I believe at the time... I think I've told this story before, but I believe at the time it was Mass Effect 2 that was just coming out. And he knew I liked RPGs, and he knew I liked sci-fi. And he's like, "Oh, you gonna get Mass Effect 2? You gonna get Mass Effect 2?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got it pre-ordered, man." And so it came out, and I said to him, I was like, "Oh, did you start playing it yet?" He's like, "Yeah, man, I already got through all the main campaign, and then I'm gonna go back and do all the side quests." I'm like, "What? It was just released yesterday. How the hell did you get through the main campaign?" He's like, "Well, you see, I play games I play RPGs. I play all the main quests first, and I ignore all the side quests. And then once I've played it through once, then I come back as sort of a new game plus, and even if it doesn't have a new game plus, and play all the side quests along with the main mission." I'm like, "You are crazy." You are crazy. Like, I mean, I can see the appeal of doing it because you want the story. But at the same time, I'm like, the side quest, how are you able to resist the temptation of the side quest? Like, every time I see a side quest pop up, I'm like, I should do this in case there's some kind of gear that will make the rest of the game easier for me. I guess that's really what it comes down to, right? It's like, there are people who always want a challenge, and so they try not to level up too much. And then there's people like me who just want to be total badasses and just wreck faces everywhere they go. And that's the way I play all my RPGs. I'm like, if I don't play the side quests, then I'm not going to get experience, which means I'm not going to get some good loot. There might be some good loot in those things, and I might not, get all the spells and everything that I need. And so I want to make sure I do all this. And it's like, because when it comes to the final boss, I want to go up to a final boss and I just want to one-shot him. That's my ultimate goal in RPGs, is to one-shot the final boss. That's what I want to do. That's why I spend so much time. Plus, I like the storytelling. I like the world building, right? I've always loved the world building stuff, and so I feel like I'm missing a huge chunk of the world building if I don't do some of the side quests. If at times, even in the Mass Effect series, there were some side quests I just ignored because they were just boring as hell, or they went down. They looked like they were going to go down blind alleys. But for the most part, when I play an RPG, I play everything except for maybe the fetch quests. Like if there's like go fetch 5,000 fairy dust flowers or something, I won't do that. And the only reward for that is you get an achievement. Like, no thanks. I'm not an achievement hunter. But but if the reward is like, you get some badass armor kit that will make you, shoot fire out your ass, I'd be like, yes, I will do this. How many hours is it going to take me now? Let me get my IV ready. So that's why I get so hung up on the Witcher stuff, is that all those side quests are like world building. And that's why I've been playing so many of the side quests around there, because I'm like, oh, I want to see what's over here. Oh, I want to see I'm getting some good gear, like the Witcher school gears, like the Griffin gear and all that stuff. Like, oh, I'm getting all this gear. It's like supposed to be the best in the game. Like, oh, I gotta do this. I gotta do this now. And it's like, and then I end up, I played one of the story missions. I finally started to play like the Ciri mission to go talk to, the last person who might have talked to Ciri and ended up not talking to Ciri. And I'm playing that, and like, all the monsters in it are green level. Like, I'm, not having that much trouble, although I still had some trouble, even though they were green. I was still kind of under-leveled compared to them. But it was just, a lot of them I was just sort of not having that much trouble as you would have if I had just played that first. So it's like, oh, okay, I get it. I might be over leveling a little bit. All right, but that's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with running into something and just like knocking the snot out of all the mini bosses and everything else. But yeah, so Divinity Original Sin 2 is going on to Kickstarter. I'll leave you a link to the Eurogamer article that talks about it. I did not look into it yet. I'm not sure if I will back it on Kickstarter. I might, because I did like Divinity Original Sin 1, even though I didn't finish it, and I may finish it someday, maybe, hopefully, but I don't know when, and it'll probably be on a live stream if I do. So I might back it. I have to see what they're doing with it. The story in the first one was kind of forgettable and not that great. I think the best part of the first one was the interactions with the characters. Like the character dialogues were fantastic. The story, maybe not so much, but the character dialogues were fantastic. Like it felt like characters were saying things that they should say. In that case, it wasn't like highfalutin nonsense. Like, why would I say this to this guy, or why would this guy just ignore the fact that I was being a dick to him? You know, like it felt like the dialogue interactions were authentic. It felt like, so that was always I like that part of it. Some of the other things were take it or leave it, you know, as far as I'm concerned. So I've talked about that. Another Kickstarter that I've been looking at, that I have actually backed on Kickstarter, is called Grip. And it is the spiritual successor to Roll Cage. It is a racing game. If you've never played Roll Cage, I never played Roll Cage, it's a really crazy action racing game where you could basically drive cars up walls and upside down and flip over, and your tires would work on both sides. It was and there was just a ton of speed. It was speed out the wazoo. And Grip is looking to be very much the same thing. You run on walls, run on ceilings, you flip over, whole lots of speeds in there. It's being worked on by two developers. One of them, Baker, worked on the original Roll Cage games at Attention to Detail, at the developer Attention to Detail. So, spiritual successor? Yes. Most definitely. So I back that because I really want a racing game in my life that is nice and arcadey and fast and awesome. There is, what else? I'll link you to indie games. I think, is that what I'm linking you to? I clicked on the wrong thing. Yeah, I'm linking you to indiegames.com for that one. Because they actually have a really long write-up about it. They're the only ones that had a long write-up about it. All the other news articles on it were like, here's a paragraph and here's the Kickstarter here's the Kickstarter video and have fun. You know? And this one actually goes into a lot of depth about what you can expect on it and the cool features and the car customization and all kinds of images on there and stuff. So I would recommend reading up on it and seeing if it's something that you would like in your life. It's something that I certainly want in my life, so I have backed it on there. And another thing that I am backing on Kickstarter right now, sci-fi, of course, Everspace. It is a roguelike from the creators of Galaxy on Fire. Now, Galaxy on Fire is an interesting one. I stumbled across it. I stumbled across Galaxy on Fire 2, I think on Steam or on GOG. I can't remember which one. I think it's on Steam that I have it. And I just randomly stumbled upon it one day. I had never heard of it before. And it was basically, when I looked into it, it was privateer or freelancer, really, in space. And it was by a random indie dev. And I'm like, why have I never heard of this before? Holy hell. I want this. And I still haven't played any of it yet. But that same developer is coming up yet again with something in the same genre, but with roguelike elements in it. So this one is a space fighter shoot 'em up, and it's done in I believe in the Unreal 4 engine, I believe is what they're using for it. There's a fantastic interview with the devs, or with the developers of it, on Space Game Junkie, the Space Game Junkie podcast. I'd go over there, spacegamejunkie.com, I believe it is. I'd go over there and listen to that. They're pretty good interview that talks about not only Galaxy on Fire, but also what's going into this game. It's a rather lengthy one. It's about 2.5 hours or so. So if you've got 2.5 hours to kill, you might want to go over there and listen to that. And I realize Brian Rubin is very, very much a fanboy. He's the guy that runs Space Game Junkie. Very much a fanboy of space games. So he does have a tendency to sort of ramble a little bit, but I'm okay with that. But I know that could be a bit rough for some people who are looking just for an interview. But he does go into a lot of depth about, he's very passionate about space games and stuff like that. So he does talk about a lot of different things during it. So if you're as into space games as I am, it's certainly worth the listen. But anyway, and I'll leave a link to that too. Why not? I'll also leave a link to indiegames.com, which also has, again, a very detailed write-up of it as well. So if you prefer to read about it relatively quickly instead of listening to like 2.5 hours of an interview, you can do that too. But it's a 3D space shooter, and it's all mouse driven. The actual movement is, and I believe it's also going to be for. I don't know if they're going to release it for mobile devices or not. It says here it's got sort of a mobile devicey feel to it, but I don't know if they're going to release it for that. I didn't hear that. I don't remember hearing that. I didn't listen to the whole podcast that they were interviewed on, but I listened to some of it just because I ran out of time. My headphones at work ran out of batteries. I have wireless headphones, and that's why I only listened to about an hour of it, because I ran out of batteries right in the middle of it, and I didn't get back to it, but I will next week. It's got the action mechanics into it, so you can go and you do have to. So with the roguelike stuff, you do have to like mine asteroids and stuff, but you mine them by shooting the asteroid, and then you just fly through whatever was collected, and then that's automatically collected, just like an action game would be. And then that goes into being able to repair your ship and making sure you have oxygen and all the basic essentials. But this one, the really interesting thing about this is that roguelikes are usually, or roguelites, whatever you like to call them, usually are kind of light on the story. It's usually there. The story is there just to kind of move you from one node to the next, whereas this one is sort of has more of an emphasis on the story and more of a emergent story, I think is what they're calling it, like a non-linear storytelling system, where there's, again, like any other roguelike, there will be or roguelite, there will be nodes that you travel through, and then at each node you'll have some sort of encounter. And the idea is that some of those encounters will give you lots of story, or some piece of the story. You might get different pieces every time you go through. So that, and then the idea is that, I'm sort of getting ahead of myself a little bit, but the idea is that you're going to die often, and then every time you start again, you might get a different piece of the story, and then through each playthrough, you can then put all those pieces together and get the full overarching story that you're looking for. So it's kind of interesting in that perspective, where it's like, okay, I might play through it once and I might skip some node somewhere or go somewhere else, and because I don't have the resources for it, and then I might skip that piece of the story, but then I'll get another piece of the story over in this other area, and then another piece over in this other area, and then I'll die and then run through it again. Maybe I'll go to these different areas that I didn't go to before, and then I'll get other pieces of the story that I didn't get the first time through, and so on and so forth. And it sounds really interesting. It looks beautiful. Like the screenshots are just mind-numbingly awesome. I mean, I look at this, I'm like, I hope my computer can play this thing. I really hope I can crank this thing up to ultra, because this is fantastic. Just some of these visuals that are on here are just cool. Very, very cool. Looks very awesome. And they've been working, I believe it is the Unreal 4 engine, I believe is what they're using for it. So it's certainly a looker. It's certainly got the horsepower behind it, and the best of breed and all that stuff. The heritage to do good things. But they are out on Kickstarter. And like I said, I will link you to the Indie Games article on it. And then I also link you to the Space Game Junkie podcast that talks about it, because that gives you some more information as well, listening to that. And those guys, deserve some more click-throughs, because they do some fantastic stuff. I've been listening to his podcast for a while now, and frequenting his RSS feed anyway. And he does Let's Plays, but he also focuses entirely on just space games. And it's, for someone like me that likes space games, that just hits the right nerve. What's the word I was going to put there? Hits the right note. I think note is the word I should put there. Nerve might not be the right word. Note, better word. So yeah, we got all that. What are we doing on time here? We're running down. We're running down on time, my friends. Before I go, I have a bit of a mystery, and I'm putting this out. I pose a question to all of you fine folks out there on the internet listening to this. Please help me to find out what the hell Sunset Rangers is. There's a game that is described on Indie Game Magazine, I believe, and I'll leave you a link to it. And it's called Sunset Rangers, and it sounds fantastic. It looks like a Red Dead Redemption like game, only first person, but none of the links work, and I can't find it in Google or anything. So anybody out there who knows anything about Sunset Rangers, because it looks fantastic, but it looks like it's in early alpha, if you can find me a website or something, please hit me up on Twitter, because I got nothing and I want to know what this is. So thanks so much for watching, everybody, and I will see you next Sunday.